Welcome back to Raising Those Spirits. I'm Steve,
I'm Sam.
and we've been gone for since Halloween, I think.
Since Halloween, yeah, we skipped. Yeah, so it's been almost 2 months.
Yeah, I've been really ill for 2 months, so sorry
Poor-
about that. I
You
do.
know, it's one of those things about we run a podcast about stuff to watch with our kids. The funny thing about kids is they are germ factories.
Seriously. Yeah, I mine brought home RSV, and it just took me out for weeks and weeks. And this might be a short one. We'll see how long my lungs hold out, because they're weak still.
Oh, poor Steve. Yeah, that happened to me over the summer. I ended up with a pretty bad case of bronchitis, and there were days where I couldn't breathe.
Yeah,
So we're gonna wish Steve well and hope his lungs hold out for the episode. We'll see how long it goes.
we'll try.
And do best. So, Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas. I think this episode will
Oh,
be dropping the day after Christmas, so happy Boxing Day.
oh, Boxing Day. Yeah, you put those ornaments away. Listen to this podcast while you do. I hope you had a Merry Christmas, people in the future, because we're recording this a week ago.
Pre-Christmas.
Oh man, yeah, it's late on a Tuesday night. We're old and grumpy, and I'm already
And
loopy.
it's
I'm drinking a soda. I'm trying to stay awake.
it's the end of the year too. Like I've already done at least one family Christmas. I don't know about you. No, I've done at least two.
No.
God.
Oh wow. No, no, my first one's coming. First family Christmas. It's gonna be on the weekend. I think Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah, I'm Christmased out already. I'm done, and I know I still have to go to like the last weekend of July. I still have family Christmas stuff.
Oh no.
I know I'm never escaping this season.
Happy holidays forever. That could be a horror movie. Every
Yeah?
day is Christmas.
Oh my God, I love it. Every day is a different, like,
Christmas.
a different, like, nationality or like folklore Christmas. So, like, you end up like, you're in the Krampus one, you're in the Yule Lads one, and like, it's like every day is just a different Christmas monster.
Oh man, that would be fun. That'd be expensive. It's a lot of different monsters. All right, somebody get on this.
There, there's a new movie coming out actually. My wife just sent me the trailer. It's Christmas themed. It's a Norwegian horror film about an American family that like moves to one of like the farms and doesn't understand about the Nissa, like the little gnomes and stuff.
Right,
'Cause
right, right.
they take there's different types of Nissa, but they take care of like your crops, or they protect your house, or they watch over your livestock, and they're happy and nice, and then you thank them every Christmas by leaving out a bowl of porridge for them, kind of like cookies for Santa. But in this horror movie is basically like they they don't know to put out the porridge, and their barn Nissa turn on them, which I always
Sounds
joke
like
about because we leave out the porridge because my wife and her family are Norwegian, and every year she forgets to put out porridge, and I'm like, you're gonna get us killed. So she sent me the trailer, and she was like, I'm gonna get us killed.
playing with fire here, man. Playing with fire.
So anyway, I like it. Someone get on it.
All right. Well, in the interest of saving Steve's lungs, why don't we get into tonight's episode? We'll kick it off with our opening feature, our around these United States of cryptids. I don't, we don't actually. What is the name of the segment? Do we have a name for the segment?
I mean, I like the United States of Christmas. Christmas, although eventually we'll have to expand it to global, but
That's true.
the
Eventually,
state
we'll
of the
run out.
cryptid.
State of the Cryptid. Oh, okay, okay. State of the Cryptid. State of the Cryptid. That's good. Where we find cryptids from each state, then feed their description into the Mid-Journey AI image generator to see what it comes up with. Um, so this week we're on Indiana, and it's my turn. I picked the Crawfordsville monster from Crawfordsville, Indiana. Steve, I told you before we started recording that this is an interesting one. I'll start you off with this little tidbit. If you see the Crawfordsville monster, do not shoot it. Because if you shoot the Crawfordsville monster, you could go to jail or face a fine.
What?
Fun little hook there. Fun little hook, right?
What?
I'm already. I already finished my drink for the drink segment, so maybe I'm a little loopy. So first described in 1891 by two ice delivery men, the Crawfordsville monster was described as a rapidly moving white sheet. Looked like a white sheet. Moved in the air with several fins, so described kind of like fish-like, um, with no defined shape.
So a
There
cloud?
was no head. Yeah, it looked cloud-like. It had no head or no tail, but it had one gigantic eyeball, and it made a like a humming kind of noise. So they saw this, and this was very scary. Other folks described it as kind of like a cross between a giant snake and bat, so like a giant bat snake monster. And it was even investigated by the Fortean Society, which is a group of paranormal researchers who were operating in the late 1800s, who were kind of the disciples or follow the works of Charles Fort. Which that's a thing. I think it could be its own podcast. Charles Fort, who was an 1800s paranormal investigator, or it could definitely be some sort of like old timey X Files.
I
But
love
I
it.
digress. Yeah. It was discovered this was actually a flock of plovers, killdeer plovers, which are a small bird. You often see them at the beach or on golf courses. Um, so this was a large flock of it's a large flock of tiny birds. And the reason why it's illegal to shoot the Crawfordsville monster is because it's illegal to shoot plovers. You cannot hunt plovers. They are protected by the North American Migratory Bird Act of 1914, which means you can't kill non-game birds that migrate between the United States, Canada, and Mexico. Um, so if you ever go to the beach and a plover flies at your head, and this has happened to me a lot, or maybe I exaggerate because I am famously afraid of birds. Um, that is the Crawfordsville monster.
I love what got spit out of Midjourney here. I'm not seeing the Crawfordsville monster.
So in the first set of photos that you're seeing, I just put in the prompt for that one was Crawfordsville monster,
Oh, I
just
love
to
it
see what
all.
would come out. And one of them looks like a monster house.
It's
That's
like it
something that
wears
we've
that. It's like
done.
a snail that's wearing the house like a shell.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite. There's one that looks kind of just like a twist of Roots with a goofy face.
If the flying spaghetti man couldn't fly and just walked on all the spaghetti.
Yeah. There's one that kind of looks like I'd say a woolly mammoth, but its head is a spider.
Yeah.
Not with the head of a spider. Its just head is a spider.
Yeah, like the if the spider's thorax also had its like face and eyes like a beholder and then just the spider legs coming out of it on top of a woolly mammoth where the head should go.
Yes.
And
And
it's
I
got
like
its own
how
little
all of
rain
these
garden. Look at that.
it's
It's
cute. He's agricultural. I like that those three all came with these kind of like very goofy eyes. It makes me wonder. It's like what's going on in Crawfordsville that the AI generator is associating it with goofy eyeballs.
they are
Um,
the focal point of all three photos.
yeah. And then there's one that's just a dragon.
It
Pretty neat dragon.
this would absolutely be a monster they fought in Power Rangers.
Oh, totally. No, I'm seeing it. The second group of photos, I think it was Cat Snake. They all look very much like the Bat Gremlin from Gremlins 2, for one that's also a little bit like a cat.
Yeah,
I don't like these.
they're bat
They're
dragons.
Gremlins 2. Yeah, they're bat dragons. They're okay. They're not bothering me. Definitely got a lot of weird mid-journey limb issues.
But that
Um,
works with cryptids.
oh yeah, it's definitely why I think the AI cannot replace real human artists. One of them has a tail that goes into its wing. They're not very good.
It seems like it's
Um,
perched on its tail, which defies physics.
yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Mid-journey's trying here. Um, X group, I pulled literally just the description that came from the 1891 Crawfordsville Journal. And I think I got confused because it's described as a great white sheet. So it ended up making a bunch of flying robot sharks. These are cool. I like the shark blimp. I like the shark fighter plane, like World War II fighter plane. I don't know why they all got so old timey.
Have you
Um,
ever seen Iron Sky?
no, that's the Nazis in space movie, right?
Yes, that top right shark ship blimp is 100% something I feel like I would have seen in one of those movies.
Hmm. Yeah, Nazi shark robot blimp. Not good. Pretty scary. I would be afraid if I ever saw robot Nazis.
Oh,
Nazis flying a robot shark. I wouldn't
that
like
thing is
that.
massive. It's over this
Uh,
like an actual like wooden frigate and it's just dwarfing it.
I like how there's also a couple of like steampunk airships in the background of that one.
I my favorite part of those airships is they are far in the air and it looks like they have oars going down for rowing.
Yeah, there's a lot of world building in that one.
This is an entire this photo is just a prompt for an entire book series.
Oh yeah. The next one I removed Great White and just put white sheet. So still very similar, but I took in some of the words I think led it to believing in shark. It still made just like a lot of like flying aquatic creatures, I think again because I used the word fins is described as having many fins. I like top right
Top right looks
squid.
real cool.
Yeah, squid monster. There's another one that looks like a giant like fish blimp. In our final series, because it's just a flock of plovers, I put in flock of plovers,
They're just
and
adorable little friends.
it did a pretty good job.
I was wondering why there was just like I was looking through these and then there was just birds and I was like,
Yeah. So yeah, don't shoot the Crawfordsville monster. It is a flock of birds. I don't know that Midjourney got it with any of these, like what those guys were describing. I would think maybe in the set with the squid monster and the fish blimp, maybe that's getting closest to what was described. I don't think at any point it really got it
yeah, I
um,
agree.
in this group. None of them look like an amorphous white sheet flying through the air. But if I had to say one that got closest, I'd say in group five, probably the squid, because there's no discernible face and there is the big eye and many fins. So that's the one I think gets the closest to actually reaching what was described as a Crawfordsville monster. If I had to pick one to make an actual cryptid out of, that's tough. I do like Shark Blimp from set 3. Again, because there's a lot of world building there.
I do like
But
Shark Blimp a lot, but
yeah.
I feel like there's
Snail
since
House, though.
hmm
I have such an affinity for Snail House Monster.
yeah,
The
I
first
think
image that
there's
I came
too
up with.
much going on for a short story with Shark Blimp.
Yeah.
I I think Snail House, Spaghetti Monster, or our Rain Garden guy. Although our Rain Garden guy just looks like another version of the guy we keep making.
Yeah, that's true. So, and I think that's true of like Goofy face root monster. He looks like a non-threatening version of that one. So I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna say I think Snail House. Snail
Okay.
House is our guy. I think very similar to Monster House, the movie we watched. This is a creature, like a mimic that can look like a house, or it has a shell that looks like a house. And when it emerges, it's this eyeball pokey head thing.
So the story behind this is, you know how sometimes you'll be like, I've never noticed that house before. Has that house always
Oh
been there?
yeah.
That's this thing.
So if you go down a street and you go down the same street every day and then suddenly there's something new, like a house that you're like, well, that clearly has been here a while. It's broken in. Why have I never seen this house before? Yeah, it's
Yes.
this bulgy eye guy. What do we call him? He's a mimic like in D&D because I feel like that's where a lot of this comes from. Like House Doubler, House
The
Doppler.
double wide.
Ooh, the double wide. The wide-eyed double wide.
I love it.
Okay, so he's a wide-eyed double eye. I can't say it. He's a wide-eyed double wide, and he is a monster that wears the shell of a house, and he emerges midday, looking like in this photo, um, probably to eat you. I think he'd eat you. Or is he a friendly monster? Now he's really strung out.
Yeah, he's gonna eat you.
He's gonna eat you. So if you're ever you're walking down a street, and it's the same street you walk down every day, and you see a house that you've never seen before, and you are alone, you are in absolute danger from the wide-eyed, double-eyed. Wait, the wide-eyed? Shoot, I'm never gonna
The
get it right.
wide-eyed
He
double
is.
wide, and I have a new idea. Instead of eating you, he looks intense. I think he's popping out and he's like, have you heard the good news?
No, he's a missionary.
He's a missionary.
He is way worse than Oh, who was the rock slide bolter we came up with? What was his name? Bill
Oh,
Oates. Bill Oates. He is
Bill.
a much worse. He's a much worse version of Bill Oates.
Yeah, you literally cannot comprehend the god he is trying to, you know, sell you on.
It is an eldritch horror unlike any you have ever experienced.
Yeah,
The Crawfordsville monster, everybody. Do not shoot it. It's illegal. It's up to
it's
$250,000 fine. It is years in prison. Oh boy, Steve, what are you drinking?
so. In honor of us watching the Addams Family this week, I am drinking a Raul Julia.
Oh, love him, love him.
Yeah, he was just so good in this. Um, so this is in the bottom of a shaker, you dissolve some charcoal powder in lime juice and coconut cream. And after you combine it, you add ice, pineapple juice, and rum. Shake until chilled and strain into a glass. I did not do it with the charcoal powder because I just couldn't access good edible charcoal powder right now. Um,
Okay, fair enough. That'd be hard to come by.
yeah. So, um, but you know, the lime juice, the coconut cream, pineapple juice, and the dark rum are where the flavor comes from, and that I 100% give my seal of approval to. It is a tasty cocktail.
That's like it'd be good for your lung issue you're running into.
Oh, you know, it helps fight off the scurvy.
That's always good. Gotta fight that scurvy. I went real simple. I had a eggnog, but I substituted with bourbon. Because I found every time I've had eggnog, I've not been a fan of it, but I love bourbon. And it ended up being a good combination for me.
Yeah, a
So I
lot
would
of
drink
people
that
have been
again.
doing bourbon instead of rum in the last few years, I've noticed.
Yeah, I looked it up to see if it was even a thing. I had friends over the other weekend for a little Hanukkah get together, and I went to the store beforehand, and I way overbought. I always do. I bought like pastries and stuff, and I grabbed a jug of eggnog because my wife likes it. And I was like, well, I got this. I'm gonna give it another try. And I didn't get around to it until today, and I poured some bourbon in instead of rum, and I was very happy. A nice Christmassy drink for a movie that I thought was more Christmassy than it ended up being.
Yeah, when you said, "Oh, let's do the Addams Family for Christmas," I was like, I don't remember that being a Christmas movie. And then as soon as I turned it on, it starts with carolers, and I was like, "Oh, this is a Christmas movie," and it's literally just the opening gag. Uh, but I'm
In
glad
my
we watched it.
head, yeah, I'm glad I love this. I love this movie. This is, I think, a long time coming for this show to cover the Addams Family. In my head, I haven't watched this movie probably in 20 years. I don't think I've sat down and just like watched all the way
Same.
through. I just thought I always remember that beginning with the carolers. I thought the whole movie took place at Christmas, but really, it's like literally that opening moment is in Christmas, and I think the whole rest of the movie is in probably the spring.
Yeah.
And it takes over the course of several months. We just like I was like, oh shoot, well this will still be a good episode. Still a good topic. It is mildly Christmassy, and that's perfect because anybody's listening to this. It was Christmas yesterday as this episode airs, so this makes sense
It's Christmas
to
adjacent.
cover after. Yeah, it's like just after Christmas, just like it is on December 26th when this episode's gonna air. So I stand by my choice. Oh, man. But yeah, so we both hadn't seen this movie in like 20 years, huh?
Yeah, and it holds up. Like, I was really
Holy,
wondering if I just really
holy
like
smokes.
this. Like, I was like, did I just love this, or do I love this just because, like, I loved this in 1990? And no, this is really good.
I couldn't believe how well it held up.
Yeah,
And this is what I've tried to get my daughter to watch these with me for at least the last couple of months. I think yeah, probably since we first started talking about doing an Addams Family episode. And I can't get her to watch it with me, and I'm like really disappointed that I didn't like make her watch it with me.
my son made it
It's
halfway
so
through,
good.
but he got scared.
Yeah. So let's I don't even know where to start. Adam's Family, it's having a huge moment right now. You know, it kind of comes and goes in popular culture, seeming I would say in like 25-year cycles, it seems. And we are definitely at a big Adams Family moment right now with the new animated movies that are coming out. Wednesday, the series. I think I just read that they're doing an Uncle Fester TV show spin-off of Wednesday. Um, so it's really hitting. And this is I mean this is I feel like this is probably more iconic than the original show or New Yorker cartoons at this point. I feel like this is really the template that all later Addams Family is built off of.
I
It's
agree, especially since this changed a bunch of the Addams Family canon, and they've kept that since then.
right. I think that this canon holds up across any future iterations in a way that any other versions of the Addams Family doesn't kind of get that reverence
Because
anymore.
before this, Wednesday was the younger sister, and they really liked Christina Ricci, so they flipped the ages and made her the older sister, and it's stayed that way for the last, I mean, since 1990, basically.
Yeah, this is also where they establish Fester as Gomez's brother. I
Because
was
originally
reading.
he was Morticia's uncle, so he wasn't even an
Right.
Addams.
Right, that's true. I didn't even think of it that way. I think the grandma has kind of flipped whether she's Gomez's mother or Morticia's mother.
Yeah, they
Um,
they made a joke about it eventually, where it was just like your mother came to stay for 1 week and now she lives in our attic, and he was like, my mother? I thought she was yours.
Oh yeah, I think that's from the play. There's so much Addams Family. Like I knew there was a lot of it, but after reading this and like doing some research, realizing just how much Addams Family there has been. I think like even the this movie was might have been like the fourth or fifth iteration of Addams Family at that point because there's the original comic strips, then the television show. I think there was a Saturday morning cartoon in the 60s or 70s, like a Hanna-Barbera cartoon. There was a revival at some point of the original of like the original cast in the 70s or 80s, and then this movie. And then since then, there was a sequel to this. There was an attempt at a TV series with I think Tim Curry in the Gomez role. Um, but I think only got to a pilot. There was another Saturday morning cartoon, and then now with the new movie series with the new TV shows, there's just so much Addams Family, and it
Yeah.
really this is the moment, especially for our generation of older millennials.
I think this was the make or break moment for the Addams Family because it was like if this could have flopped with millennials, you know what I mean? And if this movie hadn't done well, I don't think the Addams Family would have continued.
No, I agree,
I feel like
totally
there was
agree.
a lot of properties that they tried around then, and this is just one of the ones that stuck with us.
Yeah, because they keep trying with the Munsters,
They've
and the Munsters keep coming back, but it never sticks. The
never.
Addams Family sticks.
And oh god, there was another one I was just thinking of, and it's out of my head now. But yeah, spooky stuff they did. Oh, the Dark Shadows. They tried to bring back Dark Shadows. It didn't stick.
No, yeah, that really went for this vibe. Um, I saw Dark Shadows the movie in theaters, and I wasn't very aware of the TV show. I was aware of it, but I wasn't like familiar with it. I feel like I was probably, I guess I was 6 when this came out. I might have been more familiar with the Addams Family television series just because it would have been on Nick and Night a lot then, and I would have been, babysat by my grandparents so often back at that time. I feel like I had a better sense of the Addams Family TV show when this came out than I ever would have Dark Shadows.
I don't remember ever not being aware of the Addams Family. I remember even though I was only like 6 when this came out, I knew who the Addams Family was. You know what I mean? Like I knew what we were going
Right.
to see. And I don't know how I knew that because again, like this was Nick at Night type of stuff.
Right. I mean, like we're remembering stuff from when we were 6 years old. It's hard to say how much we actually knew or how much it might have just been kind of jumbled up in our brains years later. But I do feel like I had a cultural awareness of who the Addams Family was by the time this came out in 1991. And yeah, it's with I would say this and Beetlejuice really informed our era of kind of like um goth light, like kid goth. I don't know what you want to call it. But really, I think made a major impression on anybody who's mostly wears black today and is in their 30s or 40s. Could probably trace it to this movie.
This was one of like the three pillars of introduction to spooky stuff.
And we're saying Addams Family, Beetlejuice, and what's number three?
I mean there was Edward Scissorhands, but if you don't want to do
Oh,
two, I would say honestly, like Are You Afraid of the Dark?
oh yeah. We should make like I feel like we need to come up with, and this is for us to do. We are the most qualified. The early '90s cultural canon of kid goth. It's Adam's Family, Beetlejuice, Are You Afraid of the Dark, Nightmare Before Christmas. That might be a little bit later.
That's a little later. I think we were in like almost middle school when that came out.
Yeah, I feel like it's like we needed Adam's Family as a base, like a goth base
The
to get
Craft.
to. Oh, The Craft. I don't know that I've ever watched The Craft.
I
That's one
remember
of
it was
those
a
ones
big
I feel like
deal
I
when
need
we
to
were
watch.
kids.
Yeah, absolutely. I liked Buffy. I liked the original Buffy movie. I was into that,
Yes.
but I didn't watch The Craft. I rewatched the original Buffy just a couple of months back. Or maybe was it like kind of? Oh yeah, it was about when Paul Rubens died. I watched it right after Paul Rubens died. I forgot just how good that movie is. You kind of forget the original Buffy the Vampire Slayer in the wake of everything that spun off of it. But really, they started on a good base there.
Yeah. I mean, oh God, Paul Rubens was just so good in it.
He is the best part. Everybody else is fine.
Luke Perry's
Paul Rubens,
fun. Like
yeah.
Donald Sutherland is Donald Sutherland.
But yeah, that really it's it's Paul Rubens and what was it, Rucker Hauer is the main bad guy in the movie. I think they're back and forth. That's what makes it. But Addams Family. We're talking about Addams Family. This is second or third Angelica Houston movie we've done. We did Witches.
We definitely did witches. Um,
Like this way more than Witches.
oh,
Witches didn't hold up. Angelica Houston is marvelous in this movie.
yes. Yeah, I was watching it and her presence in this is insane.
There's this amazing thing they do with Morticia in this movie with her eyes, where
Yes.
she's always lit separately from everybody else. I was reading about this on the IMDb trivia, and they always put like a focus light on her eyes and just her eyes, and man, does it pop! It really gives her this presence that you just don't see. Uh, you just don't see it in movies. Like it's such a like small detail that I don't know if I would have noticed it if I hadn't read that it was there. But it really makes a difference.
I was watching it with my wife, and she was even just like, Angelica Houston, this is like ethereal looking. And like, I was reading interviews with her about it, and apparently, because they wanted her to look kind of like the original Morticia, so they actually like glued her face, and like they would like pinch and glue it. So like her eyes have that like pointed slant going back because they had actually like folded back her skin and glued it there.
Oh my.
Yeah, so like it's not so they did the special lighting for the eyes. They literally like shaped her eyes and glued them into place for the day, and same thing with like her cheeks to give her those like sharp curves. And
That's true. She does look sharper in this movie than I think she usually does.
yeah, that's because she was like there was literally tape and glue all over her face under the makeup, pushing it into that form.
It feels it sounds so unnecessary, but at the same time it's like, wow, it really works. So what am I gonna tell them?
Yeah,
Her
it's
makeup in this movie is
iconic.
so on point. Her makeup in this movie is so on point. And I don't know from makeup. I don't know makeup work. Like she looks so good in this movie. She's so again, like when we think of the Addams Family, like I think of Angelica Houston more than I think of the original Morticia.
Oh yeah, I always think of Raul Julia.
Oh my God, Raul Julia. We didn't get enough time with Raul Julia.
No.
They're actors who it really hurts that we didn't get to spend more time with. And Raul Julia really, I mean, he should be on his third Oscar by now. It was very sad that he died so young.
Yeah, he was in his early 50s, right?
He was really young.
I think he was like
Um,
53.
and for somebody who, he died when we were kids, and I have such an impression on him, such an impression of him in popular culture. I think because of the first two Addams Family movies, and honestly, Street Fighter. As
Mm-hmm.
silly as as silly as that movie is, everybody will tell you Raul Julia is amazing in that movie
He took it
for
so
ridiculously.
seriously.
I mean, he really provided a better performance than than he needed to.
It reminds me of
Um,
that thing they say about Michael Caine with the Muppets. And they're like, Michael Caine is so good with the Muppets because he treats the Muppets like fellow actors.
mm. Oh yeah, I love Muppet Christmas Carol. That was one of my favorites as a kid.
Yeah, and that's how I
Uh,
feel about Raul Julia. Like he treated this with all the seriousness that he would treat any other role.
no, he treated this part with so much respect, and it comes across in every line this man delivers in this movie. Um, is perfect.
I died, and I always die. There is a scene towards the end of the movie, probably beginning of the third act, where he's down and out. He's lost the Addams Family house. He's living in a motel. He's just a slob, and Thing is trying to communicate something to him through sign language, and he's just like, "Slow down!
He's
You're
doing it's
you're
like
impossible to understand when you stutter."
it's just he's talking to a hand. He's
And
talking to a hand
he's
that was doing Morse code at that point.
Yeah, and he is like literally like I don't even know if there was anything there in real life, but it is such a performance of just him yelling at a disembodied hand about how it's stuttering.
I mean that line is one of my favorite, just because you're right. He delivers with such passion and emotion, yelling at a hand. And that's the beauty of this movie. Is really like these incredibly ridiculous characters. Or not, ridiculous is the wrong word, but these incredibly surreal characters. And Julia's performance as Gomez is very different, I would say, from John Astin's in the original series, who was much more just um I don't know, like they're both cartoony and
Suave?
very different. Suave, okay, yeah.
He was
Raul Julia
suave
is
but
very
not eccentric.
right. Um, there's another line in this movie that has always stuck with me, and before I think I even really understood what it was, and it was when Tully Dan I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Dan Hedaya, um, is trying to get into the vault, and Gomez is like, "No, we're talk that is new business, and we don't talk about new business until," and he flips through his notebook, "next quarter." It's like, what a line to deliver in such a set in such a way. I don't, yeah, what a performance.
Yeah.
It's really one of the best.
It I feel like had he kept his health, we would have either gotten more Addams Family movies back then or they would have done a revival by now.
Yeah. No,
Cuz
I think we would have had at least a proper trilogy.
because Christopher Lloyd is so good. I mean, Christina Ricci is perfect.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. I mean, like she was so young. I forget how young she was. And you know what I think it is? I think because Christina Ricci's just a little bit older than I'm looking her up
she's a
right
few
now
years
to see
older
when
than
she was born.
us.
Right. But so when we were kids and the age discrepancy was much, is much percentage wise larger, I always thought of her as being like more adult. Oh yeah, she was born in 1980, so she's like 5 years older than us. So I always thought of her as being like much older than us, and then realizing, oh, she really isn't. This woman is in her like early 40s right now. Uh, and then watching this again and seeing this incredible performance from a tween. What a performance. So
Like
iconic.
she Wednesday in these movies sleeps with her hands across her chest like a vampire or like a corpse, and Christina Ricci just did that. That wasn't like direction
Right, that was just a choice she made.
as a tween.
Yeah. Christina Ricci still killing it. Still still Addams Family adjacent, because she's on
Wednesday, right?
Wednesday. Yeah, which I have not watched.
Neither have I.
It's on my list of things to watch. My wife has watched it and sounds like it was a good show. Good enough that it's getting a second season and a spinoff, so clearly it's doing something right. Also, I want to like to take a moment to think about Jenna Ortega, who she's in this. She's in Wednesday. She's gonna be in the Adam, not the Beetlejuice. part two, taking over as Winona Ryder's daughter, I think. So she's really putting herself in the shoe I don't know, the cultural shoes of all those early 90s kids. So good on you, Jenna Ortega. She got the Scream movies too.
She found her audience and she is appealing to them.
Nailed it. She's good. She's good. I watched the two most recent Scream movies, but I think she dropped out of Scream 7
Yes,
to
she
do
did.
the next season on Wednesday. Probably a good choice. So, a reboot Scream.
So
So we
I
haven't even talked about the plot of this movie.
well, I
I
just
don't know
like
that we even need to.
we're just going through the icons who are in this. I didn't realize that cousin It was Isaac from the Children of the Corn movies.
I've not seen the Children of the Corn movies,
He's
so
like
you
the
have to.
lead evil kid. He is the lead child of the corn.
Wild.
Yeah, and he did the voice of Chucky in the first Child's Play.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
So,
neat. I always think of. I mean, you always think of Brad Dourif, but of course, like half the movie is supposed to be still be a doll.
yeah. So that was him when it was the doll's voice. Yeah, he's just like a horror icon and there's just so many like iconic people in these movies. So, yeah, just plot-wise, I mean, I had mixed up a lot of the plot of this with part 2 cuz mainly I think because I could not imagine that they ended up kicked out of the house and in a motel in both movies, but apparently that is the case.
Yeah, I would say that it is a. I would put that as a little knock on Addams Family Values, which we were going to do as our Thanksgiving episode.
And I was
Um,
excited for, but I literally had no voice.
couldn't talk. So we watched Addams Family Values, and then we didn't do that episode. And then we ended up watching Addams Family. So we'll revisit Addams Family Values at some point in the future. Um, I would put it as a knock on that movie, as good as it is. There's a lot of great stuff in Addams Family Values. They really rehashed the plot in a
Of the
big
first
way.
one.
Yeah, they really did. Um, because yeah, it's Uncle Fester is being manipulated by a woman. In this movie, it's his adopted mother. In the next movie, it's his wife. In an attempt to get the Addams family fortune. Very yeah. I didn't realize until watching them both back to back. I was like, oh my god, this really is the same plot. But Christopher Lloyd is great in this movie. It's one of his. But I put this as his second most iconic role. Obviously, I don't think anything's ever good. I don't think anything he's ever done is going to beat Doc Brown. But I put this as a solid number two.
I was thinking Judge Doom, Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Really, is more iconic than Uncle Fester. I could put that in the top. I'd put that in top three. I'd put that in three. I would put this as number two. Man,
Christopher
there's a
Lloyd
movie
is
we
just
should
one of
talk about.
those actors who just is one of like the most iconic of his generation, at least for our
Mhm.
generation.
Sure, and I would say like one generation ahead who knew him from Taxi. And I mean, I love Taxi. That's another one that I watched in reruns a lot as a kid. And I love the Taxi theme song. I just put that on if I'm like driving along, kind of leisurely. I'll put on the Taxi theme and just imagine the opening crawl of Taxi. Um, yeah, Christopher Lloyd really does a great job in this movie. Here's here's a question. Here's
Hmm.
something I want your take on. What are they? What are the Addams family? Because
Oh, I
they're not human.
they well, my theory is that the Addams family is cursed.
Okay.
So
Doing pretty well for you.
I don't. Well, there's a fan theory that an Adams can't be killed by an Adams, and that's why like no one ever actually gets hurt in any of the shenanigans, even though Wednesday does things like put Pugsley in an electric chair and turn
Right,
it
because
on.
they're very hard to kill. I would say like that is one of the things we can point out of like what supernatural creature or something that's going on. They are very hard to kill, seemingly. not impossible to kill because they reference other people dying, but it doesn't seem like dying is a big deal to them. And
But
I'm not even sure that it sticks.
well, they do talk about like they're walking through the graveyard at one point, and every gravestone that person was murdered by like society,
Yes.
like torn apart by
They're
an ang
driven out of places.
yeah. So like it's never because Morticia even says they met at his cousin's funeral, and he was still a suspect, but he couldn't have done it because Adams can't kill Adams.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, here's another thing. There are other families, seemingly, because they have a big party at one point, and there's all those people that come over, and not everyone at that party is in the family. A lot of them are friends who are seemingly along their same sort of supernatural line,
The only
like
ones
the
that we
twins.
meet are all named Adams.
Well, not what about Flora and Fauna, the twins?
Okay,
They're
sorry, not
not
Flora and
Adams
Fauna.
because
Those are just weirdos. You're right.
yeah, but they definitely fall into the same sort of supernatural category. And so we know that there's more than just their family. Seemingly, I would say if you marry into the family, that's how you become one of them, because that's what happens with Tully's wife. She
Yes.
leaves him for cousin It, and by the end of the movie, and certainly when we see her again in the second movie, she is 100% whatever they are. I like that theory that Adams can't kill an Adams. I think that's really interesting, especially with Debbie in the second movie trying to kill Uncle Fester and being unable to do it.
Yeah,
She's married.
because they're married.
Right. And she doesn't seem to be taken over by whatever they are because they're able to kill her because they murder her in the second. I'm getting ahead of myself because now we're talking about Adam's family values, which is not the topic of this episode, but I feel like it plays in. She does get killed, but maybe at that point she's made her intentions clear and she's been out of the family and she's able to be killed.
Is
Joan
their
Cusack.
marriage found to be legitimate?
Well, I suppose okay. So let's think about if they got married under false pretenses. I think that is a case for an annulment. And at
Mm-hmm.
that point, Uncle Fester would be aware of that. So I think that at that point it doesn't count.
And then he can kill her.
And then yeah, then she can be killed.
Oh
So
man.
there's a couple of things. Also, so Thing, who's just a hand, who's a sentient hand,
Yes, thing is what
is
freaked
not
my son
really.
out.
Yeah, that's fair. Reasonable. Absolutely reasonable. They don't. People are aware of Thing, and he's able to just interact with society as he wishes because he's there at the beginning with the accountants, with Tully
Mm-hmm.
and his wife, and they seem to be like, "Oh, okay, he's here." They don't seem surprised by his presence or existence. And later in the movie, he gets a job delivering mail. So he was able to get a job. They got a cart for him to haul the mail. So that means supernatural, like whatever this light supernatural thing is a known thing in the universe of these movies.
Everyone he runs into while delivering mail is freaked out.
Yeah, but he still got that job.
Well, he must have. So I don't know if there's canon about Thing, but my theory of Thing is that he was literally like a hand that chopped off of an Adams and never got to like be reconnected and is now just like that guy. And therefore, since he's a person, he can like apply for a job, like even just written, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know, it's weird. It might have been like there's no rule that says a dog can't play basketball.
Right, but I mean, like, even if, because sure, people might be uncomfortable around this disembodied hand, but that disembodied hand still had the ability to get a job.
Yeah,
See, like he had to have filled out tax forms. He exists as a thing. As a thing. He is thing. Because I mean, like, cousin It, presumably there's. someone underneath all that hair. And it's not so crazy to, it's not so out there to think that somebody could grow their hair that long. It would be unusual, but it can happen. The thing is just that. So
And
I've always been really fascinated by that. Like, what exactly are the atoms?
well, Thing initially wasn't even a hand. It
Even in
they
the show?
decided to make Thing a hand when it became a live action show, but
Oh,
Thing,
what was he in the? Was he in the cartoon at all? The comic strip or no?
yeah, he was it was something that couldn't be identified.
Oh.
Yeah, they called it Thing because it was just this thing that lived in the house.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Oh, that's funny. So they had to make it into something for the show, and they made it a hand, and
Yes.
then that is what stuck over time. Oh, I like that. That is cool trivia. I like that trivia.
Yeah, Addams Family has a lot of fun trivia.
Yeah, I think if we wanted to milk this, I think there's. I would love to revisit the original series at one point. I was watching it because it's on. They run it on Pluto, and like just catching an episode, and I was like, oh wow, this show really does. Like, yeah, I get the appeal, and that like I was saying, there's just so much of it. Various cartoons, the shows that right now, two TV shows in the works. Um, John Aston is someone I always think is dead. He is alive, the
He's
original Gomez.
alive?
Yeah, he's like 94.
I
Yeah, you thought he was dead, right? He is alive.
I was positive he was dead. Like I don't think I would have said that's sure money. Like
No, I mean like he is alive. I don't even know who else from the original series is still alive because Morticia, the woman who played Morticia, passed away. I don't think too long ago, and she was great. I was just rewatched the 1950s House of Wax with Vincent Price, and Morticia from the Addams Family TV series has a small part in that movie. She's really great. She's passed away. The original Wednesday has passed away. I don't know about anybody
just
else.
recently,
Presumably, yeah, the original Wednesday passed away very recently.
Pugsley
Yeah, within the
died.
last. Is he dead? The original
Yeah, Pugsley
Pugsley?
died back in 2014.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, John Aston's still alive. So
Yeah, he's seems like he's the last one. Cousin It's dead. Uncle Fester's dead. It's whew. Yeah, no, you blew my mind. I cannot believe he's I forgot that he
yeah, I
was
think
the
it's.
judge in the Frighteners.
Oh right, the cowboy character.
Yes.
Yeah, he was. That had been right before he retired. That must have been one of his last ones. I don't think he's done much. I don't know when the last time he showed up in anything else was.
He's still working.
No.
Yep.
Now I'm gonna look up his IMDb.
He's
What has he got coming up?
well, he's been doing a lot of podcasts recently. Um Upcoming Starship 2 Rendezvous with Ramses, Justice League Action. Uh yeah, no, I mean he mainly does voice acting now it looks like, but
You know what? You're right. I just read because I just rewatched Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, and he was a big character in the second and like later Killer Tomato movies, and I saw that he was in the Killer Tomatoes podcast, which they're doing for some reason. Oh yeah, he's doing cartoon work.
good for him.
Yeah. Real I mean like what an iconic character to have really set the bar for with Gomez. Something
Yeah,
I find interesting. I remember when Luis Guzman got cast as Gomez for Wednesday. People are kind of up in arms because he's Hispanic, and I was like, I'm pretty sure Gomez has been mostly Hispanic. John Aston is white, and I know Tim Curry, who played him once, is white, but Raul Julia, Oscar Isaac in the current animated series.
mhm.
So I feel like
His name is Gomez.
His name is Gomez. I always find that very surprising. Like, his name is Gomez. That's a Hispanic name. But no, John Aston was white, so everybody gets very confused by Gomez's ethnicity.
Oh my God. Yeah, I one of my most vivid memories of this was the journey down to the vault and like pulling the chains. And that was like a minute and a half of the movie.
And it's such a ride. That's the thing. I think there's certain points that stuck with us as kids because it's such a ride. I remember when Kelly is in the vault and he pulls that thing and it turns around and he just sees just how much money there is. And they do that
Yes.
really cool trick with all those mirrors to make it look bigger than it is. Whatever room they shot in. That always stuck with me. I thought that was such a cool shot. And it's those cartoony aspects I think is what makes this a good kids movie. Kind of. There are parts where I wonder if this is okay for kids, and I would watch it with my daughter because she's a bit into this sort of stuff. I think because me and my wife are so into it, she's used to it. I don't know that I would. I don't know. Like, would I show this to other kids who are not explicitly into this sort of thing?
I don't, the thing is, this seems timeless enough. I don't see anything happening here that, like, I'd be like, well, this feels out of place.
Yeah. No, yeah, because it's such a like it has such a vibe, like an older style vibe.
Like, I don't
Like
see a cell
yeah,
phone
it's
or
like that time.
anything, but when would I?
Sure.
Like,
Yeah,
they,
it's kind of timeless because the Adams themselves are so out of time. They're like vaguely Victorian, but not exactly Victorian.
yeah, and like, even their car back then was like a really old, like, Rolls-Royce Wraith or something like that.
Yeah, it was a throwback.
So even then they drove a car out of place. They don't even have a TV in the 90s. Like there's nothing that it's not like they're sitting there on a payphone or anything.
Right. Yeah, because they're already a throwback, it prevents them from getting dated
So I don't
because
see
that was always the joke.
yeah, so I don't see kids watching it and being like this is so old I can't relate to this. There's nothing to take you out of that.
Yeah.
I think everyone should just go
Yeah.
back and rewatch this. It holds up the entire way through. Like the opening is great, the middle is great. It just I kept waiting to get bored.
No, the
Lo-
pacing is very good.
yeah,
Yeah, it was definitely. Yeah, I started watching this. My daughter had already watched the animated ones that came out in the last couple of years. And she was like, "No, I want to watch the cartoon Addams Family." And I like eventually relented and I just watched it after she went to bed. I was so mad. And then I had to sit through those animated Addams Family movies. They're not they're not as good.
I've heard
They're
they're not the
really
best.
yeah, I watched them I'm like this is a real slog. I would rather be watching like I don't know, Minions, I guess. No, Minions are a slog too.
I have not
They're all
watched any of the
terrible.
Minions.
Tried not to. I feel like my daughter is at some point kind of forgot about them, so I haven't had to watch Minions in a while. But we went through a Minions heavy period. And it's like I like Despicable Me when it's Steve Carell in that first one. But then by the time you get to like the second, third one, it's a lot of Minions. And then they're just Minions movies. Then it's just like two straight Minions movies, and that's too much. That's my opinion on
It's too
Despicable
much
Me.
going on there.
There's a lot. I mean, they're just annoying to experience. And then I'm thinking like, oh my God, there's so many like right wing memes for some reason. Why do right wing aunties love to make memes out of the minions? Don't know. Can't
They
understand.
adore those things. I do not
Why?
get it.
Well, that didn't happen with Addams Family. There was no memeable moment, it seemed. I think those movies are done. I don't think the second one did well enough to justify a third. So let's hope that that particular piece of Addams Family media takes a little break when I
I
get a lot
always
of Netflix.
laugh at the Louis Guzman thing because he was a big part of Community.
Oh, I loved him on Community. He was so good.
Like, it's such a stupid good joke.
Such a good joke on Community.
And, like, I just, it's too good because, again, I can't take things like this seriously. I'm like, oh, yeah, Louis Guzman. Like,
I loved you in IMDb. I love Community.
Community's so good.
Um,
I'm due for a rewatch, I think.
oh yeah. But yeah, we're really, I mean, like, we are in the new age of Addams Family. Let's see. I'm excited to see. Now I really want to watch Wednesday because I just rewatched these movies.
Yeah, this has definitely made me want to watch Wednesday. I'll say if your kids have been making you watch any of the other crappy Addams Family stuff and you're like, did I ever actually like the Addams Family? You did, and you should
You
cleanse your palate
definitely
with
did.
this.
Oh yeah, so good. What amazing performances.
Yeah, there's like,
I normally don't have this much to say about movies that we like. That's how you know this movie's really good.
yes, and
Usually
like,
when we like a movie, we don't have a very good conversation about it. Because like, oh yeah, this is good. But there's so much to grab onto in this movie and really enjoy and make your kids watch.
yeah, and just there's you don't really even need to discuss the plot in this. We've all seen the original Addams Family, I feel like it was just one of those cultural things that happened.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel like anyone's like, well, what's the story about that would be listening to this? I'm like, you saw it. You were there. You were there in the 90s.
Yeah. It's the story about is it's about these weirdos and they're great and you wish that you were in this family. You
Yes,
really do. You really wish that you were in Adams or like I think, maybe we are all Adamses. I think we are
at the
all
end of the
part of
day.
the Adams family. Because you know what? They would accept you. That's the thing.
They'll accept
They're
anyone.
such they're such a good family. There's such a good family dynamic. There's no toxicity. There is like two loving, positive parents. The kids get along. The grandma lives with them.
They're a
Like
traditional
they're just
nuclear family.
I think that's one of the power, like, that's part of the power of, again, whatever they are. It's not just that like they'll bring you into the family, is you spend any amount of time with them and you're like, no, this is what I want. You make that choice. You want this. You want to be part of this family because they're so good together. You see that in the second movie too with David Krummelholtz's character, because he kind of like gets absorbed into the admins as well. And yeah, I'd rather, like if you feel like you don't fit in with your family, you would absolutely fit in with the Adams family, and they want you there to be a part of their family.
I think that's their success, honestly, because we were talking about like how the Monsters doesn't hit, because the Monsters are just a normal everyday family who
Sure.
just happen to look like monsters. The Addams Family are the opposite of that. Like, they are not your everyday family. They will just take you in.
Yeah, I guess that is the kind of funny thing about the monsters. Is like they were playing out the same sort of sitcom-y, well, family scenarios. And I think just like some of the latter monsters properties just were not particularly well put together. I haven't watched that new Rob Zombie one, and I have no intention to.
Yeah.
Um yeah, with the Addams family, they're high quality, and these people, they want you to come to that party. They want you to marry their niece. They're so inviting.
Yeah, because, like, Gomez adores Tully. Like, they all do. Even in the end, when he's betraying them, they're like, Tully.
It's like we were friends. We were like I invited you in.
Yeah,
Like you were always in because everybody's in. Why would you betray us if you needed? Gomez would have helped him. I mean, that's the thing. The accountants are trying. Tully, the accountant, is trying to get money because he's out of money. If he had just asked,
he would have just had it.
nothing. Yeah, I think Gomez would have just like walked up to a wall, grabbed some gilded whatever, and been like, "Here, you can have this. I don't need it." And that would have been the end of it.
Yeah, because
There never needed to be a scheme.
at the beginning, they're gathering items for charity, and they're just like pulling out like that Chinese finger trap, which is like made of gold and encrusted in rubies. Just they just like threw it over, like, oh yeah, auction that off.
Right, and then oh, I love that scene. They go to the auction and they buy it back for well beyond its value. Like,
Yeah,
what an amazing thing to do. It's like, oh, we're gonna donate this to charity, and then we're gonna give you 10 times its value so that we can get it back.
yeah, and all that money still going to charity.
All went to charity. These are good people. God, I love this movie.
Yeah, now I've got to go. I didn't actually get a chance to watch Values again. I've seen it more recently than this one because it used to play on FX all the time, I think. But yeah, I gotta go rewatch Values.
Yeah, it's like, oh, now I understand why I got so into the spooky aesthetic in the first place.
Yes.
Because because they're great. These people are so great. I would love to have that kind of like I would love it if I had that kind of crazy money and I was just like, "Oh, I could yeah, we'll just do whatever. Let's help people.
Yeah,
Let's
why
be
not?
good." Everybody reach into yourself and find your inner Adams and just be an Adams. Be that. Be helpful, be charitable, be good to each other, be so good to your family. And what family? Like relationship goals, Gomez and Morticia.
Oh
Those
yeah.
they are man, total relationship goals.
I think that's a good place to end it.
I think yeah, let's call it there. Everybody go watch Addams Family. Get your kids to watch it. This is such a good example of what a family is supposed to be.
All
All
right. Where
right.
can they find us?
Find us on Facebook and Instagram. We're at RTSpiritsPod. Definitely follow our Instagram so you can see all the images we generated earlier in the podcast that we were referring to in the crypt state of the cryptid. Is that what we settled on?
State of the
State of the
Cryptid.
cryptid segment. Yeah, so that's what that is. So, or at RT Spirits Pod on your social medias.
All right. Thanks for joining us. I'm Steve.
I'm Sam.
And stay safe at the end of the year.
Yeah, have a good one.